Productive Pastor 87, 3 things to not worry about in the new year. What's going on, friends? Welcome back to Productive Pastor, first episode of 2024. I'm recording this on Tuesday the 2nd. Is your day going well? How's your first day back in the office? Are you even back in the office? I tried not to, but I just had to get some stuff done. Had to get the year kicked off. Before we jump into things, a couple things I want to let you know about, as always, but they all kind of come around to this. Are you on the Productive Pastor email list? I email folks weekly, try to at least, and also let you know about other things that are going on in the larger Productive Pastor ecosystem. But these emails are always deep dives into very specific topics of ministry productivity. And if you're not getting those, it'd be a great time to jump on, sign on. You can do that at the show notes, revchatbrooks.com/PPP/087, because I'm going to be talking about something coming up. And I'll hear from folks often after we have, workshops, that sort of thing. And folks will say, I didn't know about this. And I was like, are you on the email list? This is where announcements come out. And I also I like the folks on the email list. I like to know about stuff early. Sometimes there's coupon codes there. Like, those are my peeps. So if you want to be on the peep list, cruise over to the email list. But, hey, we're not here to talk about email select today. We're talking about the 3 things you don't need to worry about in the new year, because you might have been like me a little bit, stepping into the new year with a little tired, had a little bit of a cold. I noticed this year there's a lot of all the New Year hubbubaloo that can get overboard was going on and happening. That's why I want to talk to you today about that. 3 things you don't need to worry about, but how you may need to focus on them a little bit. So these 3 things. Number 1, do I have to do everything? No, you don't. There are so many people that are vying for your mind, that are vying for your attention and for your focus as you step into a new year. There are people that will sell you fantastic courses or other things to have the best year ever. That might be one of the branded ones that's out there. And hey, I love it. Some of these things, 10, 12 years ago, that's what kind of got Productive Pastor started off. I remember when Michael Hyatt's Best Year Ever course finally came out for the very first time. I paid $100 for it, jumped into it, learned a lot. It was huge, but there's this temptation and there's this pressure to literally do every single thing. Like, I am doing a free January challenge, and I printed out the checklist, and it's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. There's pieces of it. It's like, I'm not going to wake up that early because, sleep really matters to me, and I struggle to go to sleep at night. And so, yeah, I'm going to get my 8 hours, but I'm not waking up at 4:30 in the morning. You don't have to say yes to everything. You need to say no to certain things. But there's something that comes with this. And here it is. Experimenting is good. It helps you learn how to do things that are effective. And so sometimes, you will have stuff kind of get thrown at you. You'll see these things. You'll hear about these things, all this kind of stuff. And you might want to lead off with that. Yeah, no, that's cool, but no, not doing that. Instead, there's a little bit of a shift into, I wonder how I can understand this. Being aware that folks are trying to push all sorts of expectations on us the front end of the year, and that in order for us to have a healthy and successful ministry year, or just professional year, or just year altogether, that we're going to have to do all of these things. I'm going to have to cold plunge. I'm going to have to journal. I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to do this. No, you don't. You don't need to do it all. But there's something about learning, what does it mean to learn a skill, to develop a skill in the way that you might need to. I've tweeted this or X'd this or Twixed this. That was it from the last episode. I Twixed this several times over the last couple of months. The optimization bros are real. They're going to tell you have to optimize every single part of your life in order for it to be good. And it's not the truth. But this is the thing. I think you do need to know how to optimize things, how to optimize not specific things, but just what is the optimization strategy for you as a person? How do you learn? How do you do this? because you don't need to do it to everything. There's parts of my life that are extremely productive, that are extremely well thought out and focused all this. There's other parts of my life that I allow to be the complete opposite of that because that's who my personality is. It's just in order to keep things in a healthy equilibrium, it has to be like that. 10 years ago, a decade ago, I've not gone deep into this, but there is a very different approach to life I have now at 43 than I had as a pastor at 33 or even 30 years old. But you do need to learn how to optimize certain things because this is the deal. Certain times we will come across aspects of ministry where we do know, okay, this needs to be tightened up. This needs to be squared away. I need to be thinking through this or doing this in the absolute best way as possible because it's absolutely mission critical. And when you get to those points in time and your productivity is so valuable, you cannot afford to be, in the words of C.S. Lewis, doing experiments on pet rats while you're doing that. You should have or need to have learned about strategic optimization beforehand. And so do you have to do everything this year? No, you don't. But experimenting and learning how you optimize things well is a very, very healthy and necessary tool to have in your toolkit to pull out when it is necessary. So that's the first one. Second thing, do things need to be perfect now? Nope. January 1st is just a day. That's it. If your life struggles with focus, that day is really not going to make a difference. If you live in a chaos land, January 1st on your calendar is not going to change things out of chaos land. Or January 2nd, first day back in the office of the new year. It's not going to turn things off of chaos land. Things are just going to be chaotic. And so this one day won't make a difference. Hard lines do not make things easier. But systems can. Systems can make things extremely easier. And systems can stretch out your productivity. It can stretch out your span of care. It can stretch out your abilities. It can give a tremendous amount of mental and emotional margin. It's also a fantastic leadership replication and development idea. Systems can make things significantly easier. And this is a time of the year where you can develop systems really well. If the chaos monster shows up constantly in your life and your ministry, just developing one system over the next couple of months can really change things because think of this. Now, I live in United Methodist world where we're liturgical. We follow the church calendar. You might not, and if you don't, it's even better for you because you've got even more time leading up to this than I do. But we've got 6 or 7 weeks until Ash Wednesday, till Lent hits. We've got months until Easter hits. This is a weird time of the year where things seem to slow down. Talked about this in episode 8 of the podcast, The Quarter, that there are just certain times in ministry where things you have the ability to go deep, to focus on stuff, to do some of that optimization work I talked about in week 1. The kids are in school for a long haul. There's not massive ministry expectations. This is a good time to retool. And if, the chaos monster is your boss, this can be the time to think through just like one system. What's that one thing that could change things? I'll tell you, I'll be honest. If this sounds like you, go to the show notes, revchadbrooks.com/PPP/087. Do the 515 email course. That's going to start getting you some clarity. That's free. It's delivered to your email inbox starting every Monday. For 5 days, you get a 15-minute exercise each day. You get it 5:15. That will help you get some clarity. If there's one thing, if you have no systems in your personal productivity or in your leadership, start just time block planning, do time audits, that sort of a thing. Just grab a hold of your schedule and get it into a fixed schedule. There's an episode that we have back in the archives, Fixed Schedule Productivity, talks about Cal Newport's idea of that. Like that one thing can create a lot of health for you because it gives you a really solid beginning and ending system that can just exist in one place. And it doesn't have to exist everywhere. If you need to kind of be wildly different when you're at home at night, it gives you the ability to do that. But this year, what it can do is you can create one system over the next couple of months to help make things easier. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying more effective. I'm saying easier. Easier. It makes things very different. So I didn't set any goals for this year. It sounds kind of weird. I've got a big, huge piece of paper that I brain dumped on for 3 or 4 weeks about 2024. And I ended up not setting goals. And this is why I trust my systems. I'm tweaking them out a little bit. I may be looking for some different things, but I trust my systems. And this was a big thing for me this year to not set some huge, massive goals, because I could have. I mean, the last few years have been tough, but the last few years have been good, has set things up to where, my weird multiple irons in the fire version of ministry that I'm in now is really different. And it could probably use some goals. Honestly, it probably could. But I trust my systems enough to keep things going and to keep things healthy, because that's the focus that I have right now, is to keep things healthy with the margin that I need, the margin I've created, but also the ability to say yes to things that I really need to say yes to. And so my systems are working and they're good. So do you need things to be perfect now? No, you don't. But think about what systems keep things healthy. Number 3, do I have to know everything, Chad? No, you don't. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to know the pathways forward, all the sorts of things. But you do need to start collecting things. Now, one of my multiple irons in the fire is I'm the congregational vitality strategist. That's the old word for congregational developer for the Louisiana Conference United Methodist Church. And so I get to talk to all of our pastors and also get to talk to a bunch of you in the productive pastor community through private coaching, people that reach out on Twitter, all this sorts of things. And I'm telling you, this is one of the things that comes down in almost every single conversation when a pastor reaches out to me and they're either dealing with productivity issues, or they're thinking through strategic vision for their church, or they're in an issue where they need to grow in order to reach sustainability. And almost every one of those conversations, these pastors, they cannot accurately tell me who is in their congregation. If you're looking for something to focus on the next couple of months, if you're looking for that system, if you're just wanting to kind of get around some things, this might be it. But it's this, build in the data set that you need to accurately know who is at your church and to be able to communicate with them. And this is how I do it. All 3 of these tools are free-ish. Number 1, Planning Center People. I've not found a database that can generate engagement and communication-focused lists better than Planning Center People. I think Planning Center People is so valuable that even if your church is using Realm or Church Windows or Power Church or any of those old, kind of more antiquated financial-based systems for your church management system, I think it is worth going and creating even a secondary layer of your database inside of Planning Center People, especially if there's reluctance or hesitancy to move over from the legacy system. I would go start a second one because it is absolutely that powerful, and it's 100% free, 100% free. You can add on extra modules that cost money, but even if you run the full stack for your church, I think when I was pastoring a church of around 300 people inside of Planning Center, we had every single module, and we weren't paying more than $175 a month. That's a lot, but when you look at the power it got out of it, that includes online giving and those stuff, and so it wasn't that bad. But the people module is 100% free. The second thing is MailChimp. Now, you might use Constant Contact or another thing, but this is why MailChimp is handy. Unless you're sending out hundreds, and I mean hundreds of emails a week or a month, MailChimp is free. I think it's up to 500 people on the account maybe. And MailChimp links in natively with Planning Center People. So that means you can build lists and then you can email people directly out of those lists in Planning Center People when it's tied to MailChimp. And it comes as your own email address. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. So now with Planning Center People, you have the ability to this is who the folks are in our church. These are our active adults. You've heard me harp on this enough. With MailChimp, you get the ability to communicate with them for free. There's other you can add on texting, other things like that, but that costs money. I think email is a super powerful thing. I'm trying to get a guest to come on the podcast to talk about how powerful email is for strategic leadership. The third thing, and this is 100% free, is Church Metrics. Churchmetrics.com. This comes out of Life Church, the folks that do the YouVersion app, and it's 100% free. Please do not keep your attendance on like a random notebook that's in the secretary's desk. I've seen that so many times. In a Google spreadsheet, that's handy, that's there. But what Church Metrics lets you do is Church Metrics will let you develop a different sort of counting system where you can input giving data, visitors, kids, all these sorts of things. And this is the beauty of it. It's going to natively create dashboards for you. So if you need to look and track attendance over a point of time, it's handy. I also like it because, go set up an institutional account with Church Metrics. Don't do it under your personal email. Because especially if you're in United Methodist Church, if you're in a appointive ministry, you're going to be moving. And so many times what I find is churches lose so many records because the pastor sets these accounts up in their own name and not in the church's name. And you've got to think about legacy systems and handing things off. Do you have to know everything? No, but you need to start collecting, because here's the deal. The best time to start keeping good data is 10 years ago. The second best time to start keeping good data is today. And these things will help you understand who is at my church, because what I see in conversations with pastors is there are either like twice as many people at the church they see on Sunday morning, or they're in a situation. I was on a coaching call yesterday with somebody, and they refer to them as their Sunday morning friends. The church, they run about 150 on Sunday morning, but they probably only have 30 active adults. In either one of those ways, your ability to know who is at my church and then how I can communicate to them is going to be imperative. You don't have to know everything, but collect the information you need so when you start asking questions, you have data to think through that. Now, if this sounds interesting, I'm running another section of my Creating Invitational Culture course in February. I'll be honest with you. I'm probably going to change the name of this because I realize after teaching this 10 to 12 times in person and a couple of times online, the name and the content do not necessarily match up. But this workshop, it'll be an hour, 2-hour workshop. It's about creating sustainable growth in the normal-sized church. Especially if this number 3 sounds interesting. If you're trying to figure out who your church is in 2024, because you're still asking that question from COVID, this is the information that helps you understand this. This is all about identifying who your church is and what does it mean to find growth for the normal-sized church and to clarify that growth, for growth to not be confusing or anxiety-inducing. I'd love to see you on there, and I'll share that through the email. That's kind of a great ending point for us to wrap up the episode. You want to know about stuff like that? Be part of the Productive Pastor email list. But I hope you found some calm inside of this episode. The 3 things that you don't have to worry about in the new year. You did not have to immediately wrestle the chaos monster to the ground on Tuesday and come up winning. Do you have to do everything? No. But you need to experiment. Do you need to be perfect? No. January 1st is just today. But systems are handy and healthy. And third, do you need to know everything? No, but you need to start collecting. Hope this was helpful. And friends, I will see you back on the next episode of Productive Pastor. Until then, stay productive.